Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study of the entire Bible. Currently, we are in Proverbs chapter 11. Now, I think we kind of shifted in thought from the first 9 chapters that kind of really stress the value of wisdom. The other one was the wisdom of not falling into an adulterous affair, the dangers and the heartaches of that. But also, it's those first 9 chapters stressed the value of wisdom, and now he's going to give us some applications of that wisdom. So just various proverbs as he moves along. So let's get into. We left off in chapter 11, and I'm going to go back over because I think this is a very important uh, 2 proverbs, and starting with verse 10. It says, when the righteous thrive, a city rejoices, and when the wicked dies, there is joyful shouting. So the contrast in a righteous rulership versus a wicked. We have many examples of that today. One, if we think about North Korea, Russia, China, and then there are many other brutal dictators around the world. Okay, Iran, we can go on and on and on. Some of the Middle Eastern nations, some of the African nations, that you look at how the people suffer because of the wicked rulers. Now, you can also say here in America, when a righteous rules and then that shifts to a foolish leader. So in our lifetime, we have had them within just the last few administrations. Just, foolishness versus wise. And all politics is evil, so I'm not going to dare try to promote one over the other. My point is just to say, when you have a fool in office, so for example, we just experienced a fool in office. The result of that was over 700,000 Americans dying. Okay, the foolishness of the person. That's all I want to deal with. Okay, all politics is evil, especially in America. But when he's contrasting here the righteous versus the wicked, when you have people who are who are either on either side trying to promote, the result is however you want to define the politics itself. And I'm not doing that here. Because, as I said, because both, in my opinion, both are wrong, both are evil. However, when righteous people are controlling the narrative, the city rejoices. When wicked people are controlling the narrative, or as he says here, when the wicked are controlling, and we'll see this statement later on, but when the wicked are controlling the narrative, the people mourn, and when they are put out of office, you notice he said there was a joyful shouting. And I think even now, verse 11, he says, a city is built up on the blessings of the upright, but is torn down by the mouth of the wicked. And isn't that so true? That is why voting is important, that we have the privilege of voting. Not every nation has that. In other words, this truth exists in a lot of nations because the people themselves don't have any power to vote. That's it. North Korea, Russia, South Korea. China. Okay, they don't have a controlling vote in there, and as a result, you see sometimes the wickedness that prevails, that drives the narrative of those nations. Verse 12. Whoever shows contempt for his neighbor lacks sense, but a man with understanding keeps silent. Kind of interesting thing here. Whoever shows contempt for his neighbor, in other words, talks about it. Now remember, the term neighbor here doesn't necessarily mean the person who lives next door to you, or I should say, it is not limited to a person who lives next door, but it is your fellow countrymen. So for example, in Israel, in America, anyone basically is our neighbor. And then anyone outside of America would be considered a foreigner. Okay, verse 13. A gossip goes around goes around revealing a secret, but a trustworthy person keeps a confidence. One of the most, I think this, one of the most, and I mean, hardest, complicated things to do is to keep from gossiping. Notice he said, a gossip goes around revealing secrets. That's why it is $1 billion industry on television, on social media, on whatever. You think about what will get views, gossip, right? You can even say, hey, today's gossip, and then the celebrity gossip or whatever, and guess what? It's gonna go. And then just it's again, this sin here is one of the hardest. It is not often the one that's most condemned, however, but think about it. So he said, the gossip goes around revealing secrets, but a trustworthy person keeps a confidence with a value or a value to you. You would be a valuable person when you keep the confidence of people. Verse 14, without guidance, people fall, but with many counselors, there is deliverance. Now, that's kind of interesting here. Without guidance, people fall. And that is true. It's not even talking about simple people, just period. Without guidance, people fall. If you didn't have guidance, there would be mass destruction. But notice this, with many counselors, there is deliverance. Or wise counsel. Okay? No one single person has it. As wise as I like to think that I am, I don't scratch the surface. Don't scratch the surface. And I want to say this, that ultimately the Bible is a great source of counsel and wisdom. Verse 15. If someone puts up security for a stranger, he will suffer for it. But the one who hates such agreement is protected. Now we dealt with that, remember, chapter 6. Notice he says puts up security for. Now notice here though, puts up security for a stranger. You may co-sign for your children. You may co-sign to help your children. I'll put that to help. But it is even more foolish to put up security for a stranger. Now we'll see more of this added to this thought here. The foolishness of putting up security or co-signing for a stranger. You don't even know the stranger. Why would you do that if you don't know the stranger? Why would you put up co-sign for somebody? Like I say, they could run off. Like I say, I guarantee you co-sign for a car. You co-sign for anything, and that person defaults. You know what they'll do? The first thing they'll do is they're gonna immediately come after you. They're gonna immediately put a wage assignment against you. Dumb. That's why he's saying this. You'll suffer for it. Verse 16. A gracious woman gains honor, but violent men gains only riches. Another thing is, I'm not going to say I always understand the contrast here, like a gracious woman versus violent men. I'm not understanding, but the truth is still there. Verse 17, a kind man benefits himself, but a cruel man brings disaster upon himself. We say this every day. Kindness will always benefit you. But notice this, cruelness also will bring disaster. Verse 18, when a wicked man the wicked man earns an empty wage, but the one who sows righteousness a true reward. Genuine righteousness leads to life, or what is right leads to life. But pursuing evil leads to death. Verse 20, those with twisted minds are detestable to the Lord, but those with blameless conduct are his delight. Now I'll say, I much rather want the delight of the Lord. Okay? Much want the delight of the Lord. Verse 21, be assured that the wicked will not go unpunished, but the offspring of the righteous will escape. Now, it's hard for us to kind of sometimes comprehend that, because when we think about, because first of all, he doesn't give a timeline on this. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we are always going to see it. You know, um, I, I, every now and then you will see it. I remember one time you see a jerk that's weaving in and out of traffic, right? Every now and then you might see them weave past a police officer, and then you see the lights go on, or they spin out of control and crash. But a lot of times you don't see it. But he says, "Be assured that the wicked will not go unpunished, but the offspring of the righteous will escape." Verse 22, a beautiful woman who rejects good sense is like a gold ring in a pig's snout. Beauty, even though it is a multi-billion dollar industry, and we esteem beauty, is it not true? How far does beauty really go for a woman? It can go a lot. Don't misunderstand me. It can open all the doors. But notice he said, ultimately, if she lacks good sense, what a silly woman, though beautiful, how does that pan out for them? Verse 23. The desire of the righteous turns out well, but the hope of the wicked leads to wrath. One person gives freely, yet gains more. Another withholds what is right, only to become poor. Okay? Verse 25, a generous person will be enriched, and the one who gives a drink of water will receive water. People will curse anyone who hoards grain, but a blessing will come upon one who sells it. Now, of course, when you think about, especially during times of famine, okay, hard times, I'll say this too. One of the things in our culture, we hide faces and faces. Think about during the pandemic, how people price gouge. But also think about this. You never saw the faces of them either. You should put a face on them. We should start putting faces on. Who are these people? We always say they, but who are they? Verse 27. The one who searches for what is good finds favor, but someone looks for trouble, it will come to him. But if someone looks for trouble, it will come for him. Can't help but think about one of these movie lines. Stallone, when the guy looks back, hey buddy, if you're looking for trouble, you come to the right place. All right, that's the end of my attempt to add humor. Verse 28, anyone trusting in riches will fall, but the righteous will flourish like a foliage. The one who brings ruin on his household will inherit the ruin, and a fool will be a slave to someone who is wise at heart. Now, this is kind of interesting because this is absolutely true right here. A fool will be a slave to someone who is wise at heart. I'll tell you, make this quickly. You could give a foolish group of people $1 million. You can take it from the rich. You can take it from the rich. One of the things about the rich is that they're wise in their dealing. You could take $1 million from each rich person and you can give it to the poor. And within 5 years, the rich will get it back because the foolish people they're not wise when it comes to their dealings. Notice he says, those who bring ruin on the household. I think about that. I think about sometimes when when people have to go home to their homes and says, I messed up. I committed a crime. I did this. Whatever. All right. The best way is don't go down that path. Like, I don't want to come home and tell my family, I just murdered somebody, and the news. You think about, even right now, you think about the mass shooters. You think about on the news. And of late, we've been seeing family members come back and go, yeah, that family member, whether the father, whether the wife, they may say, we didn't have a clue. Some of them are saying, yeah, they were horrible. Notice he says, the one who brings ruin to his household will inherit the wind. Verse 30, the fruit of the righteous is the tree of life, but violence takes lives. If the righteous will be repaid on earth, how much more the wicked and the sinful. Chapter 12, whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but the one who hates correction is stupid. And we're seeing that manifested more and more in schools today. The good person obtains favor from the Lord, but he condemns a man who schemes. Man cannot be made secure by wickedness, but the root of the righteous is immovable. A capable wife is her husband's crown, but a wife who called to shame is like rottenness in the bones. And by the way, remember he just talked about one who goes home and ruins his family. So he's not being unfair here, but it is certainly true. A wife that calls shame. Verse 5. The thoughts of the righteous are just, but guidance from the wicked leads to deceit. The words of the wicked are a deadly ambush, but the speech of the upright rescue them. The wicked are overthrown and perish, but the house of the righteous will stand. A man is praised for his insight, but a twisted mind is despised. Better to be dishonored, yet have a servant, than to act important, but have no food. How many times have we seen this? People with their stupid pride. Think about this. We talk about people, the rich, the famous. I think about one name, the K's, right? People talk about them all the time. People talk about, people talk about the Kardashians, okay, all the time. They got rich with no talent, but they got riches, and you don't. See the difference? They can afford now whatever lifestyle they want. You can't. That's why I said better to be dishonored yet have a servant than to act important and have no food. Now, I also say this: sometimes you go to some of these rich neighborhoods, and you see all these nice big homes and stuff, and it's rented furniture or something like that. Okay. Verse 10: a righteous man cares about his animal's health, but even the merciful acts of the wicked are cruel. Now, I can tell you, I am not an animal lover. Me and my wife, we are not animal lovers, but it's just something just horrible when you see someone just being cruel to animals. But no, it's just cruel. It is, anyway. Verse 11, the one who works his land will have plenty of food, but whoever chases fantasies lack sense. Now, the fantasies here also could be stupid investments. Now, we're not an agrarian society, so a lot of these illustrations will not necessarily apply to us because we're, they put like this, they can apply to us for more of a capitalist environment in which we live in, having good investments, things like that. That's what he's talking about. So, or knowing the financial systems of the world. One of the things I tell my grandchildren, if you take any class in college, take one on business and finances, so you can know how. I think about even myself. I think I landed in a world where, for example, I have good pensions. But if I had known and had sense earlier, there's certainly a lot of things that would have turned out financially better for me. Verse 12: the wicked desires what evil men have, but the root of the righteous produce fruit. An evil man is trapped by his rebellious speech, but the righteous one escapes from trouble. He says, a man will be satisfied with good by the words of his mouth, and the work of a man's hands will reward him. Now, we're going to see this over and over again about work. You cannot outdo work. The good of working. Verse 15 says, a fool's way is right in his own eyes, but whoever listens to counsel is wise. Now, that is so true. A fool ways is right in his own eyes, but whoever listens to counsel is wise. You ever meet a person You know that his ways are stupid as the day long, but he thinks he's right. All right, guys, I'm gonna stop here. We'll pick it up in the next study. Um, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comments section below. All comments are welcome. I'll see you in the next study.